Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday. It is a cold one here from the ETV Community Media Center. And the hot stove has been burning bright hot. As the last couple of big free agents have come off the board, the trade market has picked up. And teams that missed out in free agency, it's their time to move or miss out. It's their time to shit or get off the pot. And the Mets said, we need a frontline starter. We need an outfielder. And they went out and traded for both of them. They got Luis Robert from the Chicago White Sox for Luis Angel Acuna and a minor league pitcher. And then they went out and got Freddie Peralta from the Brewers to anchor their rotation. And they ended up giving up top prospects Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat to get Freddie Peralta and Tobias Myers. I like both those moves for both teams, honestly. I think Robert's time in Chicago was clearly long overdue. I'm surprised when they were selling everyone off, they did not sell him. They were not trying to win baseball games the last couple of years. I get that Robert was one of the only players that fans had jerseys and shirts of, but it wasn't a winning formula. He had one really good season out of all his years as a hype prospect in Chicago. He's got all the tools. He's a great defensive center fielder. And if you're able to get better than league average bat from him in the 7 hole in your lineup as the Mets, it makes a lot of sense. It's a high risk, high reward type of move for a guy in Luis Angel Acuna, who frankly might have gotten DFA'd this spring if he didn't make the team. Luis Angel Acuna, you're talking about a guy that does not have elite defense. He's a good defender at second base, but hits below league average. Not necessarily the kind of guy the Mets need right now with all the second basemen they currently have on the roster. So I like that move a lot. It was a no-brainer. And the Freddie Peralta move, I'm stunned that Freddie Peralta is not a Dodger because the Mets continued to wait with Edwin Diaz and lost him to the Dodgers. They were aggressive late with Kyle Tucker, ended up losing him to the Dodgers. I thought it was going to happen again because Freddie Peralta is getting paid $8 million here in 2026. His pitching level is a high 20s to mid 30s AAV pitcher. And they're getting him for $8 million this year. Give up whoever you got to give up to get that kind of guy in your rotation, especially when you are relying on Nolan McLean, who's had a cup of coffee in the big leagues, to be your number one starter before the trade. I thought he was going to be a Dodger. That did not happen. And the Mets now go from a team that last year I picked to miss the playoffs because of their pitching. Now with the emergence of McLean and Tong, with Peralta at the top, Senga and Manaea as good bounce back candidates, as well as Peterson and Holmes as guys who used to be like the number 2 and 3 starter for the Mets and now are just quality depth. I like this rotation. I like Devin Williams at the back end. They added Luis Garcia and Luke Weaver. They added Marcus Semien and Jorge Polanco and Bo Bichette to this lineup with Luis Robert. I like the Mets team. They have made themselves a playoff contender again, in my opinion. And both these moves are a big part of the reason why. And the crazy thing is, I don't think they're done. I still think a Skubal trade could happen. I still think they could go out there and sign Framber Valdez, who's just been waiting for a contract. The Mets, I don't think, are done adding to this team. And I really like it because the Red Sox and the Phillies both kind of said, we need a culture changer. We need to shake things up. And the Mets actually went out there and did that. They got rid of all the old regime's guys. This is a new team, a lot of mercenaries that are only on 1, 2, or 3 year commitments. Try to win. If not, out with you and bring in someone that can help me win. I like this model. I think David Stearns is a really smart GM. I'm really excited to see Mets baseball here in 2026. But like I said, I don't think they're done. But they're making moves. Because if they didn't, they'd have to just eat it going into the year. Speaking of a team that wasn't making any moves, the New York Yankees continued their offseason of just re-signing guys when they brought back Cody Bellinger on a 5-year, $162.5 million contract. This did not shock me. Honestly, I did see a few different places Bellinger could go, but his swing in that ballpark just works. They need Judge to never play center field again. Grisham and Bellinger will assure that one of those two guys will play center field before Judge ever has to again. And Bellinger's also going to play more first base this year. I like the move for them. They get to say they have another MVP in their lineup. He's not quite an MVP player anymore, but he's still a very, very good baseball player. Had a nice bounce back, good fit, good ballpark. But like I said, he was on the team last year. Like everyone else they've re-signed. They're not getting better. They're just saying, hey, the AL is still pretty open. If we just stand pat, we get Garrett Cole back, we can do things. We'll see how that goes. A trade out of nowhere was Mackenzie Gore to the Texas Rangers. Now, Mackenzie Gore has been floated out in trade rumors multiple times, and it was said that the new brass out in Washington had a high price. But I don't think anyone necessarily knew what that meant. Mackenzie Gore is a great young pitcher. He was the number one pitching prospect in all of baseball at one point when he was with San Diego prior to the Juan Soto trade. But Mackenzie Gore ended up sitting mid-90s with swing and miss stuff last year. That was the biggest knock on him, was that he was throwing strikes, but he wasn't missing bats. Last year, he was missing bats at a high rate. He looks to be a front-of-the-line starter now, and the Rangers paid that price. They gave up their number 2 prospect in Gavin Fine, who they just picked with the number 12 overall pick in the draft. They gave up first base outfielder Abimelec Ortiz, right-handed pitcher Alejandro Rosario, outfielder Yermy Cabrera, and infielder Devin Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald was also highly regarded in the Rangers system. The other 3 guys are young, controllable assets. The Rangers basically said, we want to compete again, but we don't want to spend more money. So what do? They dump Simeon's contract. They dump Garcia's contract. They dump Jonah Heim's contract, Nathaniel Lowe's contract, and they bring in Brandon Nimmo. They bring in Mackenzie Gore for reasonable money. And I really like this. The Rangers rotation now with DeGrom, Gore, and Eovaldi at the top is legitimate. I think this puts them right in the conversation to win the AL West. I know the Mariners were a juggernaut in the regular season in the second half, but this Rangers team can win the division. And I'm very, very excited with this move. I really liked it for both sides. I think as the Nationals, if you're not planning on competing, you trade this young, controllable pitcher. This is the Garrett Crochet trade all over again. But instead of getting 4 assets back, you got 5. And we'll see what happens with Gavin Fine and the rest of these guys. He only had a couple more years of control with Gore. He was going to want big money. Starting pitching money is getting pretty nuts. I like this move, and I think the Rangers, they're just saying, hey, like we spent all offseason shedding payroll and not adding much. Let's go out there and get someone who will give us a better chance to win. These prospects won't give us a better chance to win in 2026 and 2027 than Mackenzie Gore at the top of our rotation. So excited for Texas, a team that was always known for its offense, was known for its starting pitching last year, and I expect their rotation to be just solid again, top to bottom. Here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, with the throwback down the third baseline to this day in baseball history. January 24th had a few interesting things to talk about, but one thing stuck out like a sore thumb out against the rest. And it was that this date in 2012, the Los Angeles Dodgers fielded more than 20 bids for ownership of the team. Former owner Frank McCourt's costly divorce settlement with his wife Jamie resulted in him selling the team, and McCourt was the sole bidder for the Dodgers back in 2004. So he owned them for an 8-year run. These new owners, which was a conglomerate of Mark Walter, a CEO of a financial firm, who allied with Magic Johnson, who's the Hall of Fame signature you see below. If you know basketball autographs, you might have noticed that early. And the guy who ended up getting outbid by the Dodgers in 2012, multi-millionaire Steve Cohen, allied with former Deputy Commissioner Steve Greenberg. Cohen getting outbid by the Dodgers for the Dodgers. Back on this date in 2012. History repeats itself. These things are interesting. The trajectory of the entire Dodgers organization changed on this day in 2012. They've always been a class act organization. They've always been a well-run organization. They've always been able to develop players. But 2012 is when baseball and winning started getting put at the top of the priority list. And they weren't just satisfied with making the playoffs or winning the division. They wanted to start winning championships. And they built around Prime Kershaw. They built around the next generation of Dodgers with Corey Seager. And now Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Kyle Tucker, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, all of the stars they brought to town, Teoscar Hernandez. The evil empire that is started on this date in 2012. And I think it's just interesting that in 2004, not a lot of people were bidding for the Dodgers to own that team. And how quickly, in just 22 years, they go to being probably the most appealing, valuable sports franchise, maybe in all of North American sports. I know the Dallas Cowboys would be probably valued higher. The Yankees would probably be valued higher. The Dodgers, in terms of assets, in terms of location, in terms of reputation, in terms of talent, they are a class act across all of sports. And that culture change started when Magic Johnson and company got involved on this date in 2012. So the question that leaves me with the free agents that are still out there, with the guys who are on the trade block, who's next? What is the next big move? Is it Framber Valdez to the Mets? Is it trade for Tarik Skubal? Is it Ketel Marte being moved? Is it Eugenio Suarez signing with the Red Sox? Because that seems to be getting louder and louder each day. Isaac Paredes has been on the trade block. I am very, very interested to see where guys end up getting moved. I still think Sandy Alcantara is a great buy low for a team because he's actually getting paid real money right now by the Marlins. If you can get a workhorse like that and slot him in your 2 or 3 spot in your rotation, I think that makes you a really, really big threat in any division. I think that you just have to think about the guys that have been rumored in trades. And Tarik Skubal is obviously the top one. Ketel Marte, big name. Isaac Paredes obviously been thrown around. But who's going to end up being next? What team is going to be upset with the way their offseason has went, or a player they missed out on in free agency or a trade, and make a move to improve their team in the short term. Because that's what most of these trades are doing. A lot of them do get locked up and they are controllable assets, but they're trying to make their team better now. And I think those are the most impactful moves. Those are the moves that happen here in late January with the way things are set up. And those are the moves that I will continue to highlight and talk about here on the Solo Shot Sports podcast. I know this was a very, very quick one. There wasn't much to be said that has been said already about these moves. And there's a huge storm that is coming here on the East Coast. Lots and lots of snow and very, very little time. But I appreciate each and every one of you who tuned in to this quicker digestible episode. And I will be back next week, hopefully, with more trades, more contracts, and more rumors to break down for all y'all. I'm Dom Anna, and I'll see you again.